Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Tome Travelers, a science fiction fantasy book club podcast. This episode is episode 21, and we are going to be wrapping up our read of The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. So, full spoiler warning because we are going to be just spoiling everything about this book as we go through. Quick announcements before we do. Our next month's book is actually going to be the second book in the series because it was, spoiler alert, it was really good. And so that is called The Blinding Knife, I believe. I don't have my copy with me, but so we'll do that. We'll do episode 1 for the next episode. So if you want to read along with us, go ahead and get your copy and read chapter 1 for the next episode. And then, as always, we have our Discord out, which you can join. Follow us on TikTok. At the Tome Travelers Pod, all those kinds of things. And before we jump into our discussion, Whitson, you have our fantasy question.
Yeah, if you could have dinner with any fantasy character, who would you choose? This is a really easy one for me.
Yeah, why don't you take it first?
Well, super easy for me too.
Glockta, 100% Glockta. I would love to have it. Just the line, then I am the mighty emperor of Garkol, kneel before me. Like, it's just the funniest character in all of fantasy to me.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan?
Loch Lamora. We'd come up with a scheme. I'd
Yep.
be rich. It'd be easy.
Hey,
It'd be
fair enough. I
easy.
didn't even think about that, low-key. If I was in it for money, I'd do it. I'd probably do luck, too. I was thinking about it, and I just kept going back. I'm going to go with Renarin, just because I love Renarin so much. And low-key, he could see my future, and I want to know what's in my future, so...
If you said Kaladin, I would have called you a simp.
Oh, yeah.
I was ready. I
was really close, but then I was like, no, I gotta choose Renarin. I gotta let him know that's okay. I'll be his sylph.
You're the shoulder he can cry on.
Exactly. All right. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into episode 21 of The Tome Travelers. All right, Whitson, take it away.
All right, so at the latter half of the book, we see Gavin commits to saving Garriston because he thinks that they've done Tyria a disservice. He's told that he can't surrender the city, so he goes there to defend it. The White tells him she's going to send the freeing to him because that's an obligation of his. So he gets there. They're going through the process of trying to fortify Garriston. Omnicrome and Gyarados at the same time are marching an army to Garriston. We see a lot more of the Giles backstory and kind of why Gavin has like this attitude about his family, his family name, his family legacy. We see more of the intricacies of like this giant web of lies that Gavin has spun to like pose as Gavin. Kip takes action and leaves to go rescue Karis. We see him draft and try to think his way through situations. He stumbles a lot, but he seems to be really powerful, and he's extremely passionate and violent at times. And finally, after they deal with the army of Gyarados and a few of the color whites, they manage to like limp away, licking their wounds. And that's where we leave them. Oh, and Kip's note from his mom. That was the big twist at the end.
Yeah. So
I would say a twist. We kind of knew that. We kind of knew that's who she was talking about, but
right, yeah. Do you guys want to start off with Kip or Gavin?
Do we want to do like general opinions first?
Oh yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, our conversation usually flows pretty naturally from there.
Yeah, fair enough. I really enjoyed it. I had a couple I had like 3 things that are like my gripes about the book. The first was I don't understand why, like whenever we got the reveal that Gavin's mom knew that he was Dazzin all along, I don't understand why she was like chill with it. Like not necessarily chill with it, but like she was to the point where she was like, I'm not gonna tell anyone, blah blah blah, because it's just like you just killed her other son. Like
That's the deal, though. She didn't want to lose her last remaining son.
I mean, I
alive.
get that, but also at the same time, like, I just feel like that wasn't enough. I didn't feel like she had a stake in keeping the thing a secret. And so I was just like, this kind of whatever. And then the whole, like, Kip being like, I'm going to go save Karis because it's my job or whatever. And then Liv being like, I'm going with you. Like, I just felt like that was a very, like, dumb thing that they, like, them as characters should not have done. Like, Liv should have been like, you're not going, just straight up. Like, no. And then, but, like, I see why that it happened, obviously, as we got to the end of the book, like, so that way we could have this swap of things. But yeah, those two things felt very, like, not realistic to me. Like, I get we're reading fantasy, but, like, at the same time, I want to believe that it could happen, and those two things didn't really, like, sit well with me.
The Liv and Kip one, I can get with you on. I can see that, but the mother thing, I totally disagree.
I'm with Whitson on the mother thing. Now, the Liv and Kip thing, I agree with Liv. I disagree with Kip. I understand Kip wanting to leave because
he felt helpless.
Well, he felt extremely indebted to Gavin, and he was scared. We know Kip's got a lot of issues, especially self-confidence issues, and he felt like Gavin wouldn't want him unless he was useful. And Gavin's the only person that's ever really, like, I don't know, especially at the end, we definitely see this because he even calls his own mom a whore and is like, she shouldn't say that about like he's full team Gavin now because Gavin's shown him the love that he's wanted his whole life. So
yeah, and Corvin too, right? Like those are the only two people in his entire life who've treated him with any decency, and he feels like he's failing them, so he has to do something proactive.
Well, he also knows how much that Gavin loves Karis. Yeah. And so he's like, if I can do this, then maybe he'll keep me. Maybe I'll show my worth. Blah blah blah. And so he goes. I get his reason. Now the Liv, I feel like is supposed to be. Which don't get me wrong, she's still a kid, but she's kind of like I feel like his whole reasoning like shouldn't have convinced her.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the one part of the book. Yeah, that part was like little. Could have used some more extrapolation. Like I didn't even really understand that she had joined him until a couple scenes later when Gavin made it clear that she had joined him. You know, I thought that she had some doubt, like there were some cracks in the armor, but I didn't think that she had like gone through with it until Gavin like established that.
Well, especially because we know that she thinks that Gavin is basically holding her hostage against her dad. So Kip using the whole excuse of like, I want to show Gavin I'm worth it, blah blah blah. I want to show my worth to Gavin, blah blah blah. Like that should be like opposite of what she wants, like helping him out. So like, I don't really like. I felt like she like disagreed for like 2 seconds, and then she just jumped on board with it and was like, okay, I'll go.
Well, she had such a soft spot for Tyrians and like the struggle of being Tyrian, especially like in the context of the Chromaria, that I felt like it made sense. It just didn't get explained or communicated in the text like super well.
Like I see why it happened now, obviously, because like of the decision that she made, and like. Honestly, like, I'm kind of on board for her to make that decision because, again, I was talking about last episode how I don't like this Aglia chick or whatever that's, like, blackmailing her, and I feel like this just kind of frees Liv from all that stuff, but I don't like the fact that she's joining the bad guys. And so I'm just like, I see why. I just don't think the reasoning as to, like, the jump, like, I don't think the jump start was the correct jumpstart, if that makes sense.
So like, like my deal with her joining, like I understand it, especially because like it talks about how when Prince Omnichrome or whatever is talking, she's listening really intently and she's agreeing like, why should my dad have to die? Why should all these people have to die? And then so I can see her like wanting to join his side, but I feel like and I do believe she wanted to save Kip and Karis. But, like, I feel like that was almost, like, just kind of like an excuse for her to just switch sides. Like, it was just like, hey, if I get something out of it, then I'm not a bad person, or I'm not going against...
She's justifying it to herself.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But she's also, like, so, like, like pro her dad, Corvin, that it feels weird for her to go against Corvin. Which I know she said something about wanting to like make him switch side. Like once he sees that I'm on this side, he'll be able to switch sides because he'll quit getting tricked by the Prism or
Yeah,
whatever.
well,
But
she thinks that he's being like blackmailed or something by the Prism, and that's why the Prism was like taking a special interest in her, was to like get to Danavis. So
Yeah.
and
I
her
think
reason behind that is the Danavis motto is loyalty to one.
yeah.
yeah,
But she doesn't know that Gavin is Dazen, and
Nope.
that Corvin's loyalty
Right.
to one is loyalty to the Prism, his true Prism,
Right.
Dazen.
right.
So that's my one complaint about the book is that so many of these conflicts are predicated upon the secret and like
Right.
miscommunication or just the secret in the first place. And I know that's intentional.
Yeah.
It's just not my favorite plot device.
I think it's done the best it's ever been done, at least me reading this book, like through this book.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm with you there. Like, the amount of TV shows that I watch, like Stranger Things, where it's just like, this could all be resolved if people just told each other. Or if just this person didn't hold this secret, it would be resolved.
Yeah.
But this makes it feel like, okay, there's
The stakes are so
yeah,
high.
the stakes
Yeah.
behind the secret are so high that that's the reason it's being kept. Not because, oh, I don't know if I can trust you. It's just legitimate stakes. And so,
Yeah, I mean the
I
fate
like
of the
it.
whole empire, right? They'd go into civil war
Well,
again.
the whole
and be,
empire, it's also like, it's not just how the empire is structured, but it's also how the religion of everyone in this world is structured out. It'd be two
Yeah.
massive ideals just crumbling on top of everyone in this world at the same time.
yeah. I would definitely agree with you. Even though it's not my favorite plot device, I still think he executes it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Like he really makes you feel like Gavin cannot tell anyone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he's also got away with it for so long. Like, what's the point of telling? Like, it's worked this long. Things are going good to an extent. Until
well, he's been the
recently.
best Prism ever,
Yeah.
right? Or that's how he's publicly viewed. He's viewed as like this godsend,
Yeah.
literally.
And I really feel like Gavin as a character, it makes sense, or the Prism Dazen as a character, it makes sense for him to not care if people know who he is, anyways, because he's a pretty selfless Prism, or he's trying very hard to be. He's obviously still got his human qualities, but um, he's really putting forth an effort to like make the world a better place, and like I feel like deep down he's a good person, and so like for him, like he doesn't care if people know that Dazen did all this good or if Gavin did all this good too. Um,
Just so
so
long as the sum total of good in the
yes,
world is
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude, hold on. That reminds me. So while we were reading, I was writing down quotes and stuff that I really liked. And one of my favorite quotes, which was kind of brought back up at the end. Hold up, I gotta pull it up. I wasn't willing for the innocent to die so I could kill the guilty. And that was Gavin talking to Kip about whenever he first picked up Kip, and he was like, why didn't you kill him there or whatever? And then
Yeah.
that exact same line was used at the very end of the book, when Kip is trying to decide whether he should save Karis or kill or stop Gardul or whatever when he sent the assassin or whatever. I really like that just like full circle moment. That was like a chills moment that just ran through my brain. But like that was Gavin's advice, and then Kip like just straight up took it. And so like that goes along with your point of Gavin being like, I'm here for the greater good. Like, even though Dazen might have been a bad person, as the Prism, his mindset has changed. So
I don't
we
feel like
also get the peek behind the curtain now at the
Yeah.
White Oaks and
Oh, yeah.
everything that actually went down there, because that it seems like was the biggest reason that Dazen was like the evil Prism, because the situation with the White Oaks. Well, we know that they chained him in and tried to burn him alive.
right.
So
that's what I was gonna say. I don't feel like Dazen's as bad a person as he lets him. I feel like he's taking a lot of guilt on. I know part of it's
Yeah.
the White Oaks, and the other part was when he was talking to Corbin, and he's talking about how he had to make all these promises to all these people to get them on his side, and they weren't all necessarily the best people, but he was just trying to get his pride was making him want to become the Prism and beat Gavin or whatever. And it was it was mainly over Karis, but I feel like he took all that on like extremely personally, and well, I feel like he has this. I feel like the best way to like talk about that is like this huge like internal monologue we see with him when he's doing the freeing and this religious dilemma where he's like, I'm this religious figure and I have to do this because it means so much to them, but I hate it and I hate myself while I'm having to do it,
Right.
and I don't believe in it, but I do it for them, and uh
Right.
yeah, and even when we see him kill Baz, like he's like, I have to do this for the greater good. And it's like I feel like there was, although I do feel like there was a little bit of selfishness in that.
Right.
Um, but I still feel like it was mainly like his mindset was like, you know, this is for the greater good. If he tells anybody, then
Yeah, that scene was really sad. I thought it was well written to like get a response from you, and then one of the things that I'm really impressed with this book is that Gavin is both like the big bad and like the protag at the same time. Sometimes, like he is
Yeah.
like this architect of like the mystery in the world or mystery in the book, and like he's he's just really gray in like
yeah.
lots of different shades.
Yeah.
Well, we still
Get it?
don't know which
Colors, shades.
Oh well, yeah.
we still don't know which side's good and which side's bad, or if there is
Right.
a good and a bad side.
Well, that's
I
one of the
mean,
things that I wanted to talk about as we got like towards the end here was like, the Lord Omnicron made some like good points, and like even Gavin himself kind of agrees with some of them, like this religion's dumb, like all of this stuff. And so like, is it like, are both of our sides? Is there one that's morally right, one that's morally wrong, or like could we be like reading from the Chromaria is internally bad or whatever, and so maybe it's time for this new thing, and I don't know, I'm open to it. That's the thing.
I feel like we're gonna see like almost like our politics where like there's a little bit of both sides have, you know, rightness to it,
Yeah.
and it's just like you've got your extremists on both sides,
Hmm.
and it's just like uh maybe Kip will find the happy medium, or maybe he'll again Kip could still go bad. He could have a breaking point over his mom or anything. So we really
Yeah.
don't know where the story's gonna go.
I want to see what happens with the blue, like how he stole Gavin's blue with the dagger.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't steal it.
Well, so the dad
Simon
knew
or
about it.
whatever.
The dad knew about the dagger.
Yeah. Which begs the question, did he have it made so he could kill his little brother? You know?
Mm. Well,
Because
yeah.
he said
Well,
that it would take a crazy amount of obsidian, like a crazy expensive amount of the Hellstone to make anything.
right.
But then, Dazen got enough of it to build the prisons out
Well,
of. So,
so the dagger's not the obsidian, right? It's the pure white stone or whatever that
oh yeah, it's
him
the
and the
Yeah.
white
dad
stone,
were,
not
yeah,
obsidian. Yeah,
that Dazen didn't think existed.
yeah, yeah. The dagger, I'm really curious about how that plays out.
I figured it would take his powers, but I didn't think it would just take the one, which maybe it was only because he got stat like it was a quick thing. Um and so he only lost blue. But I think we're about to see his mentality spiral because now he thinks he's dying,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, he thinks that that's the signal for the end, that he lost one of his colors. So that'll be really interesting in the next book to see like how panic and like anxiety plays into the way that he
Especially
acts.
especially like his main color because we know blue's like
Yeah, he was a
one of
blue
the
green bichrome before he became Prism.
Right.
Yeah.
yep.
Well, so speaking of Kip, um, I thought the green golem thing was really cool. Like the
Yeah.
way that
Yeah.
Brent Weeks writes action is awesome. Like
Yeah.
you're just in the moment, you feel all the impact. Like you
Well,
can.
so my favorite thing about that was the fact that it's not just like Kip having way more control of his power than
Then he
he's supposed
should.
than he should. It even explains it like this is something that greens do sometimes. They let their wildness go, and it just takes control of them, and they burn out basically. Which we
Yeah.
obviously we don't feel like Kip will burn out, but he didn't just automatically have way more control of his power than he should at this point,
Mm-hmm.
which I really loved.
Right. And Sub-Red, he was putting out enough fire at like a high enough intensity that it was hurting him.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
not
not that he
just
has
that.
control, but he apparently has power. He has a
Right.
lot
Well,
of power.
he again he didn't have or he didn't use it like way more better than he should have been. He took all that fire in from the fire and he was just like, I need it out. I mean, he just started getting it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Well, and at the end when he did the Sub-Red to protect Iron Fist,
Yeah.
even then he hurt himself with it. Like and we saw other Sub-Reds who were, totally fine. We saw some of the color white Sub-Reds, and those were some cool visuals, like their skin being all bubbled and blistered in
Yeah.
spots and then cracked in others and flames just leaking out of them. The
Well,
color whites are really cool.
They
yeah, they
are.
are. And I was going to go into when uh Lord Omnichrome or whatever, he's talking about the color whites and he's like, "Oh, not all of them actually go crazy, blah blah blah." And it's like, "Well, they still kind of go crazy. They lean towards their color."
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Because
makes them do things that like normally people wouldn't do, like turn their skin to ice or burn themselves.
mm-hmm. Like, well, I mean, we saw like the and like we know that like the colors like if you use them long enough, your emotions tend to lean towards them. So like Karis, because she uses red, gets angry very very easily, and so like I like the idea that the whites just kind of lean into that emotion that they are like
Accept it, yeah.
yeah, they just accept it, and then it just amplifies them even more, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you think, I mean, the limitation on how much Luxon these drafters can pull in is how much will or won't break the halo for them, right?
Right.
I mean, clearly there's some exhaustion from it because even Gavin, after he does the wall, is like, dead tired and sore,
Yeah,
all
and Kip
that.
gets color sick.
Right.
Right. And they don't really have like telepathy. It's not like they can just like move the Luxon at will. Like they have to use, machines made out of the Luxon to move it around and stuff like that. But
Right.
but by and large, how much power they have at their disposal is just, what can I do without becoming a color white? So once you are a color white, that limitation's not there anymore.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah.
say even when they're sick, they can uh still draft. It just makes them like extremely ill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, kind of talking about the magic system or whatever, that it's like my kind of third gripe or whatever, is that like I see what Brent Weeks was trying to do with like a lot more of like the show not tell with like the magic system, but I feel like he didn't do the greatest job of it because like I feel like we go through like the first chunk of the book, like the first half, like seeing the magic system but not really fully understanding it. And by the time we're starting to slowly understand it, it's like I don't know, I just feel like the pacing of learning the magic system in this book was not good for me personally, but I think the pacing for the story was fantastic. It's just I don't think that I think he tried to do that show not tell magic system, and I don't think he achieved the best way. That's like my third gripe though.
I think he just really leaned on your like visual conception, like or spatial conception, because the way he described it to me was perfect. It made sense to me. Like he's talking about green being more flexible than blue, but blue being harder, yellow being this like hard to use thing, but if you mix it with other stuff, like I thought it was pretty well fleshed out. But then a lot of it was him just explaining like this is the machine that Gavin just constructed out of Luxon. You know what I mean? So like
Right.
I don't know if you're someone who like struggles with like spatial conception more often, it was very visual, like spatial descriptions of like basically machines.
Right.
I mean that's Gavin's superpower is that he comes up with these machines on the fly that are like mixes of all these different materials.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that, I want to talk about the wall because I have like a small gripe about the wall because like on paper It like looks really cool. It's awesome. Like it's a cool scenery. I don't like that the pictures that they put in the wall moved. And I get that they had the super violet switches, so when people got close, it would make them move. But I don't like, to me, that's not how the magic was described, as being like that
Flexible.
flexible. Like once you make a block of green or whatever, you got a block of green or whatever.
Right.
And so like they made this huge wall, and all the pictures being there, cool with that. Like you put the different colors in, it makes the different pictures. The switches doing stuff makes sense to me, but like a
Right.
spider running at you, like unless someone
Right.
is actually back there controlling that, which it said they weren't. They were just hooked to switches. That doesn't make sense to me because it's way
Yeah.
like
I get that, and I guess how I kind of like, because I tried to like conceptualize the magic system a lot in my brain, because like every time I thought I was like thinking about it right, I was like wrong again, and I was like, okay, wait, let me rethink this. And so like I basically boiled it down to like, okay, the super violet stuff, that's basically illusion magic or stuff like that, and then like you've got
I think you're way off base. I think that's not how you. Literally, they are speed building machines and structures. That's it. Like it's just
yeah,
Minecraft, basically.
right,
So,
right.
so like the spider thing, I'll agree with you. It's campy. It's outlandish. It's way out there.
It makes a great scene.
It
It
makes a
makes the
great scene,
wall super
but
cool, but like it doesn't go with his system.
but the orange that he got to do all of this, it said that he was known for making these moving Luxon structures. What I'm imagining is just a gearbox and a bunch of like yellow Luxon ropes, right? Gavin made a gearbox out of green Luxon before, right? He made like a pulley, like a block and tackle pulley system at one point, so that really is Gavin's superpower, is he's
Right,
just a quick thinker who comes up with these simple machines and these
right,
combinations of colors.
and that's cool. But I mean, unless you can make like a computer chip and make this thing AI generated, like the way it was described, just doesn't like it doesn't make sense. I agree. Like
Yeah, it's campy. It's
you could
campy
get
for
into
sure.
moving pictures for sure, but yeah,
Yeah, but I
it's
liked
really
that
cool.
he said that they had to fill the forms, right? Like that's how they made the wall. They were making forms like molds and then pumping liquid Luxon into it and then solidifying it and then dissolving the forms. Uh, I thought that was pretty cool, and it made the picture thing a lot less ridiculous to me. The fact that there's like super violet Luxon filled with orange Luxon and yellow Luxon, and like that's how it works. I thought it was cool. I get what you're saying though. Like he never really just flat out explains the magic system.
right. And that's my like, I don't know. I really like magic systems, but I like them because I like to know how they work, and like I feel like if I can understand completely how the magic system works, then I'm in a place where like I can try and guess the character's actions. But like if I don't fully comprehend what all they can do, then how am I supposed to infer or guess the next course of action for the character? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I don't know if that's necessarily what I want out of a magic system, but I mean it's personal preference.
Right.
If like I think you typically like harder magic systems,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I think typically I don't like the softest magic systems, the fuzziest, like here's a get out of jail free card because the magic system just leveled up kind of
Right.
bullshit. I find that to be really lazy, but I'm more somewhere in the middle. I like some free form, like what are they going to do next type stuff,
Yeah.
Not so much predicting what they're going to do next, but being like surprised or shocked by what they do.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
I'm cool about anything. I just felt like I already had like a basis for what this magic system did, and then that kind of like broke that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. The fact that they had all of the most powerful drafters from the Prisms War there kind of justified it to me a little bit.
Right.
It made it more reasonable that they were doing something like exceptional, but it was campy and like, you know,
Yeah.
insane.
Um.
Speaking of that, like I don't know. I love like emotional moments like that in books where like all these like old people from the war that they all agreed to like die together, and then they go like build this wall together and then fight for him. And
Yeah. I will say that was a dope moment where like after like Gavin just basically executes his mother, which he didn't want to do because he didn't believe in this religion, which was a whole nother side tangent. But then everyone else is like, listen, they're gonna destroy the city. We're gonna die anyways. Let us go out fighting. And he's like, well, you can't do that because you're turning to whites. And they'll be like, we will off ourselves. And I was like, dude, that's like the Avengers Endgame scene moment, you know, where like everyone shows up and they're like, we're going in. I just loved that idea. But I definitely think there might be some, I don't know if there's going to be some, but I think there's going to be consequences of that. Like maybe some whites turning turning into whites, not offing themselves and then going to join, which I could see
going into that. I feel like there
it.
was some definite foreshadowing because he even mentions like if y'all turn into whites, like that's not good. Like y'all are way too strong to turn into whites.
Well, yeah. And that's like why they said like we'll go in groups like the Black Cloaks do or whatever, because like the Black Cloaks' job are like if they Blackguard's job is like if they're watching over a drafter or whatever and they're Halo cracks, they gotta slice their throat right there. And so they're like if we start going whites or whatever, there'll be one of us and that's our job is to kill all the other people, and once everyone else is dead they off themselves. And I was like, that's crazy, but
war's crazy too, so like anything could happen. They could get separated or
yeah, I definitely think we'll see at least a couple of those people come back, or maybe like one notable person, like what was it, the purple bear, the guy with the super violet that was just like fucking them up, fucking color whites up left and right. I thought, what that scene made me think of, MD?
What?
When Kaladin jumps into the ring.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's like this just shonen anime moment of like, friendship wins all or whatever. That was really cool.
Maybe the magic was the friends we made along the way.
What do we think about Andros?
Dude, I'm not joking. Like, I read his chapter, and I had a buddy who had read this book, and I texted him, and I was like, he's giving me Tywin Lannister vibes immediately. I was like, dude, he's this nasty guy, but I like the idea that it's like he's so close to breaking that he lives in total darkness.
And he's so committed to staying alive and staying in power that he's willing to live in total darkness.
Yeah. Like, what does that say
that's how
about
like
him?
selfish and narcissistic of a motherfucker he is.
I love it. I hate him, but I love it. Like.
Yeah, it's good writing. He's terrifying.
Where do we think we're going to see him go story-wise?
Dude, I have no idea.
I think it's going to come down to conflict between Gavin and Dazen, if Dazen ever gets out of prison, and him, right? Because he's like conditioned his sons, and they are still obedient to him. Even in their 30s, as the religious figurehead and the most powerful people on the planet, they're still terrified of him.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a conflict between at least Gavin and Andros at some point.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that maybe he's going to find out about the prison, find out about the other son, and get him out. I definitely think he's going to go crazy now that the mom left, because remember, she escaped. Like
she said that she went against her husband's will.
Yeah, she dipped out, and then he found out later, and without time to say. I think he's going to have a grudge against the Prism, Gavin Dazen, whichever one you want to call him, and he's going to be like investigating him and find out about the prison.
Dude, you know what I could also see? Well, I don't know. I just thought about this, but like if he hears about the whole like the other people are like once you break, you become like you're a white and like they let whites live or whatever. I could see him breaking himself purposefully to become a white and then joining Gardul's side or whatever. Although Gardul's dead, what is it?
I could absolutely be wrong, but I don't see him doing that, because I think his political power and the power of his family and the power of his legacy is the thing that he like really cares about. But maybe if he thinks that he could, take over the world with
right.
Omnichrome, then maybe that is on the book.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Go ahead.
What about this? What if, like, being able to keep your sanity while you go, um, uh,
Become a color white.
become a color white is kind of true. He's already become a color white, and that's the reason he lives in total darkness is so that nobody can see what he's done, like his body and see his
Yeah.
skin. And he's running shit from the background until he's got to go to the like come to the. What if he's like the one that's like pushing this color white stuff? What if he's in league with the Omnichrome?
Oh, he's the low key. Okay, yo, that's actually good because think about it. The Lord Omnichrome is Karis's brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Andros Guile was like so adamant about marrying into that family. So if that's the maybe because like there was a certain power associated with that family, like political power or something like that, or maybe he had just made deals with that family in the past, he's more likely to join them or something like that. I like the idea though that he lives in total darkness because he's already broke and he's a white. He doesn't want anyone to know.
So what if he's already been in league with them? What if, because we know that Dazen, the Prism now, told Gavin in the past that he was getting these other colors. What if Gavin, the prisoner now, told Andros and he set up that thing with Karis's brothers, found out that he was supposed to meet her, he set up the thing with Karis's brothers to get rid of Dazen.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, he did exclude Dazen from whatever it was he
all the
told
time.
Sebastian and Gavin.
Yeah, which we still don't know. Which he's living under the assumption that the current Prism knows whatever that information is or was.
Well, and Sebastian died right after he was told, apparently, because it said he died when he was like 13 and got told when he was 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the
So I
blue
find that
color white kills
interesting.
him.
What if Andros did that too, and that's why he didn't tell Dazen because Sebastian didn't accept it like Gavin did, and it had something to do with color whites, and so Andros got rid of him and didn't tell Dazen, so he didn't have to worry about that again. What if Andros is going to be the big bad?
I could see
I
it.
could see
He's
that.
a bastard.
Like he did Brent Weeks did a great job of setting it up to be someone you hate.
Well, guy in the background too, like the guy in the shadows doing this,
right.
Yeah, pulling the
controlling
puppet
things.
strings. I like that idea a lot. I definitely think it's plausible. All right. What other story points have we not hit? We haven't really talked about Karis. She doesn't have a crazy amount going on.
Yeah, she really
Omnichrome
doesn't.
setting up Gyarados to die.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel like we saw that one coming though, right?
For
I mean,
sure.
Yeah. Well, we knew he wasn't gonna let Gyarados be king or whatever. Like he was just using
Yeah.
him for his army and stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel like we knew that Gyarados was an idiot and a hothead.
It was
Omnichrome
literally
just
a
needed
pawn.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a pawn of Omnichrome.
Liv joining Omnichrome. We can talk about that.
Right. Well, like
Yeah.
I
Well,
I kind of just fully respect and I'm on board with Liv's decision to join because of the reasons that were presented in front of her, and then also like just where her mind state is at, why she thinks she's in the place that she is. This is like the only place for her that like she can trust in a way.
Well, like where do we see that line of the story going though? Because we kind of already talked about her decision, but like where future wise, where do we see that going?
man, I think she's just gonna justify her decision to herself. I think that's probably going to be her character arc is like justifying while having to do worse and worse things for Omnichrome until
she
she
finally
reaches
sees
a
the light.
breaking point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably some conflict with her dad or Kip.
I was gonna say it's gonna be her dad or Kip.
Yeah. I could see that easily being the way, like going farther and farther down the rabbit hole until something so traumatic happens, she like finally like wakes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's, a life or death thing and she's the one that dies or has to live with the guilt of killing someone.
Right.
Yeah.
But that being like the peak of her character arc is coming to realize that she's just been justifying this shit to herself.
Yeah.
But her justifications are pretty solid, honestly.
They are.
Like
They're not like cheap walkout justifications or whatever. They're like, okay, based on her character that we've been having this entire book, it makes sense that she's making these decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've lost the city now. Omnichrome's got it. Lives there. They're running away. So the assumption is that Omnichrome's gonna like spread his like shit out from Garriston to try to get rid of the uh
Primaria.
Chromaria. So do we think that the White and the Spectrum, uh, the Council, they're gonna finally like wake up and be like, "Oh shit, Gavin was right. What do we do about this?"
Man,
I wouldn't be
usually
surprised
in
if
these
there's some
books,
people who are already
They
in.
they stick their heads up their
oh,
asses.
yeah, usually they stick their heads in the sand or up their own ass.
Right.
I
So
could
I'm
see,
kind of expecting that.
especially if we're right and Andros is guiding this whole thing.
Yeah.
There's gonna be people in the Spectrum that are gonna
That are
like try to keep shit
Or
from happening.
maybe at some point he's the surprise vote that like sways things,
He
outside of
actually
Gavin's
shows up.
control.
Yeah, he actually
Yeah,
shows up to the council meeting.
yeah,
yeah, and fucks up
And that's
Gavin's
when we see
plan.
he's like,
he's the
that'd be a really
White.
cool scene. He walks in, we see he's a White, and he votes against it, and he's got everyone on board except Gavin and maybe the White,
Yeah,
because we're
I
assuming she's good still.
kind of. She did kind of throw away
She,
Karis, right? Or that's
yeah,
the theory.
she tried to like kill Karis, kind of, by just sending
Yeah.
her to her doom.
Do we agree with Karis's reasoning that like maybe it was to spare Gavin having to free her,
I
or
don't know. I don't think we know enough about the White to know. You know?
So my only deal with that though is like we see the her informant or whatever slip the note in the carriage, like she was where she was supposed to be.
yeah, yeah, but it's kind of hard to deny that the White should know that Gyarados going to see her as like a political
Right.
pawn.
But she could also know that Gyarados was in love with her and wasn't going to kill her.
That's also true.
Maybe that is why she sent her, because she knew how important she was to Tyrians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. She seems good. Like, for what little we have seen of her, she seems like a good person. Like, she's in
Right.
service to the realm and in service to the people,
Mm-hmm.
and religiously devout.
Right. Well, isn't she the head of the religion? Like, it's her and then it's Gavin?
Well,
Because, like, the way I understand
sure.
it...
so her,
is-
Gavin, and the Spectrum are all supposed to be equals.
Well, but isn't it like... Because the way I understood it was, like, she's, like, the top because she can't draft anything. Like, and that's why they call
Oh,
her...
it's supposed to be a balance of
No.
power. It's supposed to be the White balances the Prism, and the Spectrum balances. It's supposed to be a checks and balance system, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's right. I don't think the White. I don't think anyone is above the Prism, because he's the Emperor and he's the chosen. God's chosen. I don't think anybody's above the Prism, but I think the Spectrum and the White are typically going to have more power.
Yeah, well, even
Political
then,
power.
we see the Whites even say like, "Hey, if you want me to free myself, I'll do it right now,"
Right.
or
But
whatever.
I just remember... I think there was a line, like, at the beginning of the book when Gavin was talking about the White, how, like, he... Like, the only person in the realm he couldn't kill was the White. Or something like that. And that's what made me think that she was above him, technically. Because, like, all of the Blackguards would go to protect her instead of him. If it came
So
to
the
it.
Blackguards are under the White.
Okay.
The White is like, so the White is like the president. So like she's the commander of the armed forces or whatever. And then I don't know.
Gavin is the spiritual leader,
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
and the Spectrum is Congress.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What else happened? Corbin? Do we have anything about Corbin other than liking him? I thought Corbin was a pretty cool dude.
I
like
love him.
Corbin
His
a lot.
character. I like the ideal of his house being fealty to one.
Well, I like that he's only got one color, but he can use it better than most people can use multiple colors, and because he's
Right.
extremely intelligent. I like that the Lord Omnichrome like
Respects him.
basically says like if I can get him on my side, I win. Like he's like held in such high regard
Mm-hmm.
from both sides of everything.
Yeah, he's widely regarded as a genius and like honorable at the same time. I think he's a really cool character. I like him and Dazen's like bromance, basically. Like,
Yeah.
Gavin can actually be honest with one other character. I think is cool. It humanizes Gavin in a big way.
Yeah.
Well, he just lost the only other person he could, which was his mom too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's like not a foil, but like I don't know. He's just like the second half of the Gavin puzzle where it's like, okay, over here you have God Emperor, superhero, and then over here is Dazen, the sad, bullied younger brother who's friends with Corvin.
Right.
I'd like to see how their relationship started.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting.
Backstory on that, yeah.
Version of that, yeah.
Give us a flashback or something.
And then the only other thing I can really think about talk about is the note and where we see that going. If we
Yeah.
see that,
I think it's going to keep Kip up at night. I think that's a little bit of doubt that's going to get like,
yeah.
And it will slowly snowball into bigger, much more. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's going to start finding reasons to distrust Gavin.
Right.
Even if that's not in his,
Right now it's blind
even
devotion.
Dude.
Right.
And you know what I could see Loki happening would be like finally Kip gets the courage to be like, all right, Mom, I'm gonna do this for you, and like offs Gavin, like maybe later down in the books. And when that happens, that's when the real Gavin escapes prison. And so now Kip, it's like right after that, and Kip realizes what he did was not the right, and then that's just the crashing of events, Yeah.
Well, the assumption is at some point Kip's gonna find out that the Prism right now is not his actual father. The actual father's gonna come up. Might want something to do with Kip. Might not. I don't know how that's gonna work.
I think so. I think Gavin is a piece of shit. Like through and through to his core, a piece of shit.
Well, we learned that he cheated on Karis with not just Kip's mom, but this other girl that knew that.
And neither was consensual. Neither one.
No, she said yeah, because she was saying that they had an affair and that
well, I mean, if you believe the note that she left, then
no, I'm talking about
cases,
the person that came for the freeing, that when she was offloading her guilt or whatever, she was talking about how she knew he was Dason and not Gavin because they had an affair, and after the war she had kept looking at him like, why don't you recognize me? Why don't you recognize me? And then she'd figured it out.
No, I'm talking about Karis and Kip's mom though.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I think he's just an apathetic monster.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say too. Something that we didn't talk about that I kind of want to mention is Karis had a kid and gave it away.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about that. That's really important because who's the kid?
Yeah. Because at first in my mind, I'm like, oh, what if it's Kip? And maybe like the mom was just so drugged up that she doesn't. Yeah. I was like, I don't really know if it's Kip. But Karis was literally looking at Kip being like, you look exactly like my son and things like that. And so like,
do we think there could be a second Prism war between the two of them?
That's what I was low-key thinking. I was also thinking that what if it was before he died, the assassin.
Oh, Zyman.
Yeah, I was thinking, what if it was Zyman?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but he was a really powerful polychrome.
Exactly.
Around the same age as Kip.
And wasn't there? They didn't find his body, right? It just said that there was blood, and he started getting circled by sharks.
Yeah.
No, he made it. It talks about how Kip sees him swim to the bank or whatever.
Zyman made it.
Does it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I knew he was off screen. If you don't see the dead body, they aren't dead.
Dude, and think about it. Okay, think about it, because whose kid is it? It's Karis's kid. He's living with his uncle, Lord Omnicron.
But my whole deal with that though is, well, no, okay. So I guess it could make sense because he was supposed to be with some family friends, and then the uncle would know of the family friends and maybe like look 100%. For support. And they're like, oh, we've got Karis's kid. So it could happen.
Yeah, I could see it. That'd be really cool if he just kind of slipped that in there, like, oh, he's right here all along.
Yeah. Well, because like Karis just mentions it like once, and then it like keeps moving on. And so whenever she mentioned that, I was trying to think, okay, who could it be? Could it be Kip? No, it can't be Kip.
It's
If it
possible we
is,
haven't met him yet either.
right, that's also true. But then I was just also thinking, okay, who else could that be? And I thought Simon.
Yeah, there's still 5 books
Yeah,
or
we
4
still got a
books.
lot to
Or
go.
more. I don't even know if it's finished. Is it?
It is finished. It's a completed.
It is finished?
It's a
Okay,
completed
yeah.
saga.
Well, that's cool. I'm stoked about the next one.
Me too. I'm really excited. This was a really good read. We want to jump into our ratings.
I'm ready. If y'all are.
All right. As always, we rank on 3 things: setting, character, and plot. And we always have the debate about like how much does the magic system go into the setting versus the plot. And but yeah. So we'll start off with setting. Who wants to go first on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
Setting for me was like in 7.5.
Okay.
And I'm including the magic a little bit here because the like Sundered Rock with all the shattered Luxon everywhere and how they're scavenging for the Luxon because they can sell it. I thought that stuff was really
The
cool.
school too, because the school's like
The
built.
school
Yeah, the
was
Chromaria.
awesome. Yeah, the
Oh
Chromaria.
my God. Big Jasper, Little Jasper, all the towers, the magical facades on the towers, and then the yellow one's special because it's made entirely out of yellow. I thought that stuff was so cool. Even when she goes to the inn, that super violet or the tavern, the super violet tavern where they make the soundproof bubbles for people. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all that stuff is just so cool to me. And the way that we see the not the world necessarily, but like just Gavin and Kip zipping across the ocean on a jet ski, essentially. Um, yeah, we don't see like a ton of the world in this book, which is why it's not, an 8 or a 9 for me.
Right.
We just don't see a lot of it, but what we do see is really cool. Like
Mhm.
very fantastical, over the top, magic everywhere. I think it's sick.
I agree. The wall definitely brings it up for me, and like how it's talking about how Garriston is like surrounded by this old wall, but it's like broken down in a bunch of places, and like there's houses built over the broken down parts, and like it's basically like the towns grew past where the wall used to be, and so they built this new wall. The rest of it's kind of whatever, except for like we hear about these stones and stuff that Omnichrome's talking about. That's throughout that area and why that area is so important. Why the uh, uh, Prism War ended there. Um, so I'm with Whitson. I'll probably give it about 7.5.
Okay. I agree. I'm gonna go slightly higher and bump it to an 8. I really enjoyed like everywhere that we went in the world was like immaculately described. Like the Chromaria, I loved how they talked about having the bridges at the various levels, and like it was just so visual. Like the docks and Garriston and like every place that we went, even like Karis going into the ruins of the town and like seeing the Tower of Heads, and everything was so well like described. I loved the the magic in the world, like how it's incorporated with everything. Yeah, there's one other thing that I was going to say about setting, but I totally forgot what it was. But the whites. I love the idea of the whites, and like how like they break and then they end up going mad and can be like self-destructive and all those things. I loved this world, and that's why like whenever we got halfway through, I was like, guys, I want to stay in this world. Let's keep going to the next book. And so that's kind of where I was. So I'd give it an 8.
Yeah. Now I think about it, it described a lot more because it describes the desert or whatever where he chased the blue white, and it describes the forest where the green drafters like migrate
The Blood
to, and
Forest.
the blood forest, and so there's definitely a lot of visual stuff in that.
Right.
Yeah, but it mostly, I think, is just foreshadowing when we'll get to see those places because it doesn't.
Yeah.
It talks
It's
about the
very
Blood
brief.
Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives us like the spark notes on the Blood Forest and Elisha, and that's kind of it. I don't think it does mention the other satrapies, but it doesn't really discuss them too much. So I think we're going to go to the Blood Forest or Elisha next.
Okay.
Personally, I think that's where we're going to be headed. I don't know why we'll be there.
Hmm.
Maybe
I
Lord
don't think we're gonna
Omnicrom's
go
trying
to
to take over another satrapy or something.
yeah. I don't think we're gonna go to the Blood Forest until we're looking for Karis's kid. Don't know when
Oh
that's gonna
yeah,
be, what book that's gonna be, but
yeah, it could be.
Let's jump into character. Um, I go first for this one, I guess. I really liked a lot of the characters. Like, he did such a good job of setting up King Gardul as this just horrible antagonist that like you hated, like especially in the scenes where he was talking with Karis and was like, you're the reason men beat their wives or something like that. I was like, you can't say that. Like, what do you mean? And then like also how like in the prison, Gavin, the real Gavin, is in the prison, but he's having like this internal dialogue with himself known as the dead man. And like that's a very like stereotypical thing to do, because I think I even commented on it in the beginning about how it was like Gollum-esque, you know? But I think he did a really good job of it, making it its own thing and making it different. And like Gavin, Karis, Danavis, like all the characters are really well rounded. Like, we hate Andros Guile and we barely know anything about him, you know? And so it's just, I feel like the characters are very well built. There were a couple of character decisions that I was like, I don't really know if I agree with that, but I see why it went to that. So because there are a couple things I don't like about it, I'm going to give it a 9, not a full 10, but I'll give it a 9.
Okay. Okay.
okay.
Well,
Let's
I'm right up there with you for the most part. There are a couple instances, or I would say it probably happened 5 times, 6 times maybe, where the subreddit r/men writing women. Have you guys ever seen the
Yeah,
horror
yeah, yeah.
stories on there? There's just some cringy stuff that he says from the perspective of some female characters. Like, dude, no, come on now,
Yeah.
touch some grass, go outside, talk to a real woman.
I thought you were gonna go into perspective of Kip, and I was like, he is a 15. Like
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
I
no. I
agree with
don't. I don't have any
I agree
problem
with
with
the
that.
female characters. Yeah,
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 I remember being a 15-year-old boy. They're
yeah. I was gonna
disgusting.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. I
Because like I
totally
noticed
don't
a lot of
mind
the
that.
times, like when he's around women, like he focuses on their physical attributes. I'm like, he's 15. Like that, every
Yeah.
15-year-old
Yeah.
boy does that. Yeah, like.
Yeah. And Gavin, meanwhile, acts like an adult about it, where he's like,
Right,
"Put your tits up. I don't
exactly,
care."
Right.
exactly.
But it's still, yeah. There were several cringy moments, and that takes it down probably a point for me. The fact that the dialogue between some of the characters, especially the less important characters, was like real cringe. But the main cast, including Liv and Karis, was fantastic. So I think I'll give it like an 8. It would be at a 9 if there some of those cringe moments were
Weren't
not
there,
there.
yeah, between characters. Makes sense. What about you, Dylan?
I loved the Prism, especially like when he's having this internal monologue before the freeing. Like that bumped his whole like I already thought his character was really cool and like really like thought he like it was a good character, but then that internal monologue where he's like having this huge debate in his head about his religious duties and his duties to these people and what he actually feels like that really bumped his character up for me. Um, I like Kip, and I understand why Kip is the way he is. Like he's definitely got like, um, he wants to be loved, and he's got self confidence issues. He's a bigger dude, and I understand those completely. I want to see some growth out of him, because I felt like all he did this book, like I don't feel like we really saw a whole lot of growth. Like we saw some, but I don't feel like we saw a lot. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wanting him to get past his whiny stage, which I understand why he's whiny. Like I hate using the word whiny because
Well, he's still reeling from trauma, and
right,
you
right,
just want to see him grow, like
right,
actually grow.
right. Um,
Recover from the spiral and start doing stuff.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Start like understanding his trauma, maybe, or if not, at least not if not understanding it, but like trying to like grow from it and push past it, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being like completely like against himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand why he has the self confidence issues, but like, um, he's done all these amazing things, even in this book alone. And like at some point, it's like I'm hoping he sees these things he's doing, and like how much better he is than he feels about himself. So I'm ready for some growth from him, but I still thought he was a great character, and I thought the trauma was written well, and like I think his character is written how somebody with that trauma would be writ or would act, 100%. Um, Karis was kind of 2D to me, to a certain extent. Like I definitely feel like she had like some 3D qualities, but I feel like we need to learn a lot more about her to actually see her full character. Um,
I think her backstory with OG Gavin, with original Gavin and the kid, that
right,
stuff was heart wrenching and like it
Yeah.
justified a lot of her character for me.
That was like the only reason I'm like not saying she's a complete 2D character.
Right. She's like 2.5D. Like we need to see
Yeah.
more of her
Yeah.
in the present day.
The
Yeah.
issue was it took so long for us to get that context that it
That's
made
true.
most of it feel like.
And then I think another one of the main characters is Liv, and I've got a problem with Liv because I feel like she's Corbin's daughter. She's supposed to be really intelligent. It talks about how she's super intelligent in school. I feel like she's supposed to be like this really intelligent character, even for her age. And I just feel like the decision to go with Kip
Omicron.
with Kip first, like went against her character or how I see her character, and then the decision to join Omnichrome. I feel like I don't feel like that was the most intelligent decision she could have made there. I mean, maybe to stay alive. I don't know. But as far as characters go, I think it's about an 8. I really enjoyed all of them. I'm ready for a little more growth. Like I said, I love Gavin. The prisoner, we see him going crazy. The freaking that last chapter where he's like he's
Oh
made it and he's
gosh.
crawling and
Dude.
then he falls and it's
It
just
was
like
so
you can
good.
imagine.
It was
You can
so
imagine
good.
his look on his face where he's just like,
Well, it literally says he
There's
starts
5
laughing.
more of these
Yeah.
after this one, aren't there?
It says that he starts laughing, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, he knows his little brother, you know?
Yeah.
He knows he's a thorough asshole.
the mom for being such like a like short side character. I thought that he did a really good job on her and the Andros too. Like I feel like we set up Andros to be like the big bad, like we saw. So
Yeah.
I thought he did a
Yeah.
really good job with the characters.
Yeah. Like that was kind of why I pushed back early. Oh, well, what's your rating for characters before I go on a diatribe?
I said like an 8, 8.5.
Like an 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was why I pushed back earlier when you said that the decision with or the mother's decision didn't make so much sense to you. I thought she was incredible.
Yeah,
And
I did too.
you know, I just think like that reminded me of not to be sappy, but my own mom, like she would fall on a sword before she saw me or my little brother sad about anything, you know. And now I mean it's a more complicated situation than just fucking raising kids, like they're killing
Right.
each other, but yeah,
Well, talks about
she
how,
seemed
like,
genuine to me.
yeah, and it talks going into that, like it even said it talks about how she had to send those assassins and stuff to take care of the people that
Yeah.
had found out about it. And he had no idea. Like he didn't know anything about it. She had handled this stuff so he didn't have to deal with that. He thought he'd gotten away with it his whole life,
Yeah.
but his mom's been behind the scenes making sure he got away with it.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think to some extent she had to have known her oldest son well enough to know that he was a bastard, right? Like if he's a psycho or a sociopath, which it kind of seems like,
I feel like
she knows that.
I feel like I feel like he's had too much influence from Andros because it talks
Yeah.
about how Andros like put a time or like wanted him like spent the time to get him into this position and prepare
Almost
him for
guarantee that he'd be the prisoner.
Yes. And so I feel like he spent too much time with Andros and it warped his how I feel like Andros probably warped his mentality to where he is a god. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
easy when you have that much power, especially when you've got your main person you believe in, which would be his father, saying, "Hey, you're this prince, you're this god," and so he feels like he can just kind of do what he wants to with no, you know what I mean?
Repercussions.
Not justifying his actions, but like I feel like that's where his character probably went.
Yeah,
if that
but maybe less of a sociopath and more of just a narcissist.
Yeah,
On like a literally a god complex.
yeah. Because Dazen was the opposite. Dazen was no attention from his father, so he probably leaned more towards his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go on a plot?
Sure. You want me to take it?
Yeah, you take it away.
Plot, man, this thing just kept marching forward. Like the pace was perfect. Never was there a dull moment. So many of the plot points, or the little details that seem inconsequential or like could slip past you, come back up later and make sense and are well justified. Uh, the plot to me is like 9 out of 10, like incredible.
Yeah. I'm right there with you on the whole, like, the pacing of this book felt perfect. Like, every single time I was like at the very beginning, after all that action and all that trauma, I was like, okay, I'm ready for like some effects, like what's happening, and then after that it's like, all right, now we get all this intrigue. And then after a while of that, I was like, okay, I want some more action. And then Kip is going through these trials, and you're like, the pacing was so good. Like, the chapters, it never felt like, how many more pages left in this chapter? It felt like, no, how many more pages left in this chapter? You know what I'm saying? Like, it
It
wasn't
can't
like
end here. I need
yes,
more.
yes,
Yeah.
it was like that instead of the other way around. And so, like, the pacing of it was great. And then just the plot itself, of the amount of twists and the amount of like pulling out the rug from underneath you, where it's like, boom, he's got a prisoner. Boom, the prisoner's not actually who you think it is. It's the actual and like, boom, the mom knows. Boom, Donovis knows. Boom, like, all of this stuff. I was just like, it was just so well done, so well spread out throughout the book too, that like this plot is like a 9.5 to me.
Well, so every time that there was one of those little twists, it wasn't just that it was not what I expected. It was that three or four or 10 things that I'd already read were like, oh, you son of a bitch. Like that was there the whole time. You
Yeah.
really just dangled that in front of me the whole time.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was so well done. So well done.
Yeah.
What about you, Dylan?
I agree. I enjoyed the book thoroughly. It definitely like kept me into it. I didn't really have a point in the book where I was like not really paying attention. Um, I give it 8.5, 8.5, 9.
I like it.
We're gushing over it, and you're like, yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
No.
It's plot. It did what it was supposed to do. There wasn't hardly like any sidetracks. I didn't feel like,
which is what I liked. I liked the fact that it's like, yeah, we had times where like we went over to Karis's POV, and like in the early stages of the book, it felt like all of those things were separate, but it very quickly was like, all right, we're all tied together now, and it didn't feel like a drag.
See,
so
that is one thing I will say I loved about this book. I don't hate it. It frustrates me in books when it takes them 2 books to find each other. In this book,
Yeah.
it was like, it was right off the bat. They stayed together. They didn't split back off. Which we're about to talk about our books that we've been reading. I'm going to talk about Faithful and the Fallen, and they do that a lot, where like it takes some books to find each other, but he does it in a really good way. But yeah, this book just did a whole lot better. Like I like my satisfaction.
Yeah.
I like the emotional moments where we meet. I like us staying together as a group. We're a party. We're gonna go.
And the thing is those moments, like, he dwells on them for just enough time before you're about to get tired of it, and then he goes on to the next thing. There's not enough of it. There's no too much of it. It's the perfect amount of time, and so I just really enjoyed it. But yeah, you were talking about your TBRs. We can go ahead and get into our TBRs here.
One thing.
Yeah,
we forgot to talk about the assassin that he threw off the balcony. Who we think sent her?
Oh, I think it was.
I almost forgot about that.
I think it was Andros Guile. If
I
had to
agree.
put money on it.
Agree.
I think it was
either that or a fanatic, some kind of fanatic.
Yeah.
Because the way she was talking was kind of fanatical.
Well, in the way, there's no way it could have been the White, because the White was very adamant in her letter to Karis about bring them back to the thing alive, or to the Chromaria alive. I want to talk to them.
We never even saw them talk, did we?
Nope, because very quickly Gavin was like, we got to leave. We got to get out of here. We got to go protect the garrison. So
that was after the testing, though, right? The Thrasher?
Yeah, after the testing.
It could have been the White, because she saw the test, right?
True.
before Gavin could shut it off. So she
Oh,
knows if Kip is a prism, she knows Kip is a prism.
that's fair.
So maybe she wanted him dead so that, somebody that she had chosen to be the next one, or to try to
Oh,
make the next one, to try
yeah.
to elevate. It could have been White. That doesn't seem in
Anyways,
her character, but
Yeah.
what we've been reading.
TBRs.
I finished The Faithful and the Fallen. So I think that's Ruin and Wrath, the third and fourth books. Absolutely fantastic. Um, it didn't cheapen out anything that I thought that there was a point in the book where it was like, if this happens, it's going to cheapen out like most of the book for me. It didn't do that. I loved it. Um, loved the ending. Uh, it I think it closed out every single character point, which if you know how many characters are in that book, that's a hard thing to do.
Hmm.
Um, because there's a lot of different characters, such as what I was just talking about, how it takes a lot of them a long time to meet. Some of them meet up like quick, and then some of them it's, you know, which I usually don't like in books a whole lot unless it's done really well, and it was done extremely well. Definitely recommend it. Mouse is the first book, and then
It's on my shelf.
uh, today I started the first book in the Farseer trilogy, which I think's Assassin's Apprentice, I believe. Um, I'm loving it so far. I love books that are written from the main character's point of view, but as like an older, more wiser self, and they're like reflecting on their life, and so like they'll be telling their story, and then at one point they'll just be like, "And right here is where I was a dumbass. I really
Mhm.
fucked up." I enjoy stories that are written like that. Empire of the Vampire was kind of written like that. Um, Pariah, which I want y'all to read that. I'm gonna end up having to make that one of my books. But it was written like that, and then this one's written like that. And it's really, I get really a lot of Game of Thrones vibes, maybe a little bit of Ranger's Apprentice vibes, and then like a dash of Name of the Wind vibes. So it
Name of
it
the
Yeah.
Wind
it
is what I was thinking of when you that concept. That's like my favorite execution of it. I like it too. That's a cool
yeah
style.
um yeah so it's it's really good. What about
Dope.
y'all?
I started Discworld finally. It's been on my TBR for like 3 months, but I finally started it. I'm like halfway through The Color of Magic, the first book. This is the funniest thing I've ever read. It is hilarious. Terry Pratchett, his voice is like crazy distinct. Like
Hmm.
there's just nothing quite like it. Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorites. He's hilarious, but in a totally different way. Or Scott Lynch has tons and tons and tons of funny moments, but Pratchett is just like he's like if Robin Williams wrote fantasy. I mean, the dude is crazy funny. Um, Besides that, still working on Academ's Fury, Codex Alera. Having a good time with it still.
Yeah.
And Dragon Reborn from Wheel of Time.
Yeah. I'm also still trudging through The Great Hunt, which is book 2 of Wheel of Time. I'm really, really hoping to finish that this week. I keep like putting it aside and doing other things, but I really need to finish that up because I need to get started with I want to finish it before the series is fully released, but that's its own topic for another episode. And I can't do it. And then some of the listeners might know, but they might not. I work at an academic college library, and so I starting a book club with some of my students, and we are getting ready to read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which was recommended to me very highly, and I'm very excited about it. The premise is like this person dies and she wakes up like in a library filled with books that could have been her life if she'd made different decisions. And so I'm excited for that one.
That's really cool.
But that's that's the extent of my TBR. And then like we're gonna start the next Brent Weeks books for the podcast. So it's pretty much everything that I'm doing. So Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode here. Thanks, everyone, for watching or listening. As always, if you can share, like, and subscribe, and follow our podcast on your preferred platform. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We have our Discord link to join in the description of the YouTube video, which you can click and join. Come and be part of our
Fantasy
community.
questions.
Give us your fantasy
questions.
questions. Yes, please give them to us. And we also have our TikTok now. It's at the Tome Travelers Pod, where we're gonna post updates about whenever we finish stuff on our TBRs. Which Dylan, you need to make one for.
I don't know how to do that, but I will.
He's a boomer.
It's super simple. Super simple.
But yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see y'all in the next one.
Adios.